Days of practice in cloth, we call it, just helmets only, so you can only get so many things done with that, but I thought it was very productive with reestablishing our expectations for our defense in terms of how we're going to practice and creating takeaways and playing with fanatical effort, so I thought that was excellent today. And then offensively putting in some new concepts, obviously a whole new system, so the heads are spinning a little bit, which is okay. It's part of being in this part of the process, so our specialists did some good things, kicking the ball well. So good first couple of days, beautiful weather. Couldn't ask for anything more than blue skies and 60 degrees, I think. Was that high today?
65 or
65, wow.
I think it was 67.
Yeah, felt great, so pretty cool. We're very blessed.
I know you guys want to go up-tempo on offense, and I know you want to vary it. But when you are at your up-tempoist, how fast would you want to snap it? Every 15 seconds,
Yeah,
every 20 seconds?
You're talking about 15, 20 seconds, so obviously it's a matter of just wanting to be, as fast as we can go and still be able to execute, and to me it's about controlling that tempo. You obviously vary it based on the situation, but I know as a defensive coach that gives us trouble. You go back and look and see, when you can't get your feet set and can't get your eyes right, it causes trouble. And the big thing is you try to force the offense or the defense to be able to substitute their guys and be playing against their twos and threes at times up front. And that's what you got to be able to do. That's probably the one unit that struggles the most, defending the tempo. So it's a matter of getting us to the point where we can execute at the highest possible speed we can function at.
A lot of new faces on your staff, especially offensively. You're kind of happy with how they're kind of getting situated.
Yeah, it's a whole new crew now, so all of them are brand new, so definitely different, but I think they're meshing really, really well. A lot of really good people in that room, and which is not surprising. You get a bunch of really good guys that know a lot of football and don't have big egos, and it usually works out well. They just work together, and which is what they're doing, and got a common goal, and that's for us to be top 5 offense in the Big Ten, top 25 offense in the country. So they're on a mission to make that happen.
It seems like spring practices are starting earlier and earlier. At one time you waited to after spring break. Now you don't. What's the advantage of that?
Well, what I found, it can actually drag on a little bit for your guys. So the advantage of having it, a couple things. Early enough to where if someone does have an injury, you get a chance to get surgery and then they can get back sooner. And then also I like splitting. I never thought I would until we started doing it, where we would have some practices and then leave for spring break and then come back afterwards. And I feel like that what it allows you to do is not have that long lull of practice. Because like anything else, the season gets rolling, you have a few practices and you play every weekend. But in spring, you don't play but at the very, very end. And so I think it helps by having, we're getting in 4 practices prior to spring break, then you come back afterwards and you just have 3 weeks of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday rotation, and then a couple more before a spring game. So I think that kind of gives you the chance to keep them fresh and not get to a little bit of a lull in the length of the spring ball.
There's a lot of guys back on defense, but obviously one spot, middle linebacker where Marcus was. Talk about what you've seen from Chris Covington and if you guys feel comfortable that he could possibly be that guy to play next to Tigray.
Yeah, he's in the mix for sure and doing a great job. I've been really pleased with him. And, for me, it's really 2 things. It's keeping him healthy, number 1, and number 2, just being able to, as we call it, run the defense, and run it with confidence. And when they're going fast like they will, and they will on Saturdays too, being able to make all the checks and adjustments at that high speed. So that's a big thing he has to work on. He's done a great job so far in the first couple practices, and we got several guys in the mix for that spot, but he's definitely the guy that's returning that has the most experience and really has a great shot at being the guy.
Coach, how important?
When you look at all the experience and returning production coming back from last year, being out there with them for a couple days on defense, does it feel like there's a higher starting point to just getting off the ground early in spring?
Yeah, it's completely different than a year ago, and obviously it's year 2. So, but even just in terms of, before I felt like I had to always set the tone for everything, and now there's players doing it, there's other coaches doing it, and the standard's been set, the expectations been set, and they're not satisfied. We had a good year last year defensively. We want to be a great defense. And so there's a lot of our guys, and Tigray would be the leader of that for sure. And he's a completely different person, in terms of just his confidence level and his ability to lead. And I kind of stood back during some sessions. I just watched to see how he takes things over, and that's what you want to see. So I really has a totally different feel, and like I said, there's a hunger there because we got a taste of playing good football defensively, and now they're hungry to get even better.
Coach, going back to Marcus Oliver, finding his replacement, how important is it to find a replacement for him as soon as possible?
Well, you know, I know we're not in a rush, but there's no question you want to finish spring feeling good about that spot. You know, it's a critical position for us. You know, he's the quarterback of the defense, and obviously you got Tigre there, you know, with a ton of experience and leadership. But there's nothing like having that Mike that runs the defense. You know, so I really feel like that. You know, I want to come out of spring ball with several guys that we feel good about. You know, so that's one of our goals and one of our objectives for spring is to finish up with a really good depth chart, especially at that Mike spot where we feel like we got several options and guys that can rotate in there and do a great job together and find the guy that wants to take over and run this defense.
Who else has stood out both on both sides of the ball so far? I know it's early.
It is, you know, and like I said to some guys this morning, we haven't put pads on yet, you know, so it's really hard to tell a lot of things. What you can tell is getting it lined up right and executing their assignments and getting their eyes in the right spots and giving us fanatical effort. So, you know, a guy that jumps out to me is, you know, Jonathan Crawford continues to do a really good job of establishing himself. You figure Marcelino Ball wasn't even here last year, so this is his first spring, you know. So he just feels like he's been here for a long time, you know. So, but I think he's improved a lot from even the fall, and just in terms of just the mental discipline and the little things and his eyes and just being able to play at a certain level all the time. So really pleased. I think Gooch to me would be one that I think is different, you know, and from a maturity, leadership. Really pleased with the way he's handled himself, both in the workouts and in the first two practices. So those guys jump out to me, you know, on defense. I tell you what, I think Richard Lego is really, leadership-wise, has really impressed me the last first couple of days. You know, just taking things over and taking it personal, owning it. Obviously, a lot of new faces there, and especially a new scheme. And O-line's got a lot of different guys, but you know, just really pleased with his leadership. And it's great to have Semi back out there, and great to have Jet back and Cole back in the backfield and getting guys healthy. And you know, Ricky's just another steady guy. You know, so just pleased with those guys' leadership. Their effort's been strong, and it's hard to kind of judge a lot of things, especially because you can't really tell much when you don't have pads on. It's hard to really up front. How can you really tell, you know, who's really doing a good job? So that will be more clarified, you know, when we get into pads on Tuesday and Thursday.
Can you talk about you starting to cultivate a relationship with the offense a little bit? I think it was Chris was talking to us and said it's going to be a little bit weird when he sees you cheering on the offense sometimes.
Yeah, and the kids, they gave me a hard time about it during the bowl games preparation, and they continue to. So, but it's, you know, it's a new role, and so I'm the head coach of the whole team, not just the defense, you know. So, but I still, you know, I want the defense to do well, so I have to be really careful, you know. But when the offense makes plays, you know, I want to, you know, the biggest thing isn't so much that, it's when there's like a controversial play, you know, it can't just, you got to be, you know, it can't always go to the defense. And then if I go to the offense, they act like I'm a traitor. And so, you know, it's just kind of, so what I'm going to do probably in the future is I'm going to have one of our strength coaches be that guy that decides what direction the call goes, because that way it takes me out of it, and we'll let them be mad at him.
Between Andre Brown and Richard and Aishan, you have three corners who have
We
a year,
do.
at least a year starting. I guess
Yeah.
what can that experience do at that position?
Well, it's huge at that spot. You know, Aishan had a great year, really surpassed what we thought he would do as a freshman. So it's great to have him. And then, you know, Andre's one I'd really never seen, you know, full bore. He's actually healthier now than he's ever been since I've been here. And matter of fact, I just said to him today, it's great to see him out there in a red jersey, not a blue one. And so he's a really good player. He really is. And I quickly saw that just from watching film and everything. So great to have him back. You can never have enough corners. We don't have a lot of depth at that position right now. Got a couple signings coming in that are going to help us. But those are three high-quality guys at that position.
Has Crawford kind of started to take on a leadership role on the defense?
He has, and it started during the weight room, you know, and in the workouts in the off season, and I've challenged him about that. We need it, you know. Like I said, that position. I've said it when I got here. That position demands leadership and production, and those are the two things you have to have as to be a linebacker. And so the leadership piece was something he played well when he played. He just had to get healthy, and when he was healthy, he did some good things. But the on the field has to match the off the field. There's all those variables involved, and so that's a maturity part that he's buying into, and at this point he's done a great job.
How's the transition with the 5 early enrollees going? How are they transitioning to?
Good, it's never easy. I think a lot of times you forget as coaches how hard it is to go from high school to college, and then when you do it in the middle of the year, it can be really challenging. I know one of them, Mike, came as a junior college transfer, so his experiences were a little different than the high school guys. But I feel like that they're Juan, is coming in there. He's running with the twos right now, and getting him squared away. And he's done a lot of great things, and then Thomas has come in and get some reps as well, and has probably made the biggest improvements physically. Even the strength staff was commenting about that since he got here, And so it's just it's a very very big change from high school for sure. Handling all the academics, obviously the professors they don't care that you just got here from high school, so they're gonna just treat you like anybody else. So you got to just step up to the expectations in the classroom and then in the weight room. And so it can be very challenging, but I think all 5 of those guys have, Hayden, our punters, adjusted as well too. So it's not easy to do, but I think it's been a good experience for them.
It's only been a couple practices, but how's it been working with Thomas, and has Mom had to mediate any disagreements so far?
Yeah, no, I tell you, it's still, we joked about it after yesterday's practice because that was our first one, and it's just it's different to see your son out there. I'm obviously used to him being at practice, but usually just on the sideline. He did jokingly say that watching us run all those gassers was a lot more enjoyable than actually running them with the team. So yesterday, but new opportunity, and we're blessed to be together.
Rashard's back for his final year. Have you seen him really take over the leadership role in that second year now? He knows this is his last run.
He has, and in a lot of good ways. And I still want to see him consistently do that. Because to me, that's where he needs to elevate his game. He can be as good as he wants to be. Matter of fact, Coach Hurd right out of the gate, said after yesterday's practice, he was very impressed with Rashard's ability to cover. And so I definitely agree with him on that. And he's seen a lot of high-level corners from where he's coming from. And so, but I want to see consistent leadership, because sometimes you can, in that position, you can kind of just be your own guy out there, and that's okay when you're younger. But as a leader, as an upperclassman, senior now, come back after a chance to go pro or not go pro, and he decided to stay. And so I want to see him elevate and really impact the whole team by his practice habits. And that's where a guy like him can really take his game to another level and really sharpen his skills so he can be the kind of NFL player he wants to be in the future.